to the Dad Hammer Podcast, a casual Warhammer show where we discuss all things 40k, Age of Sigmar, and literally everything else Warhammer related. So whether you are a beginner, a seasoned veteran, wherever you are in your Warhammer journey, we are so glad that you have joined us. I am your host, David the Warboss, and I am joined by my friends, the Chaplain.
What's up?
What's up? What's up? And the bearded ogre, Mr. Stu.
What is up? Yes,
And
I am ready.
Full Darkoath regalia. I mean, the helmet looks great, man. For those that are watching.
I mean, I just finished forging it. You know, the hairs is like fresh yak skin. You know, and the horns themselves came from them as well. The yak was dead. So, but yeah, this is hot off the press.
You look great.
First peak view, so you know y'all should be very lucky that you're able to be the first time viewers of this. So.
Well, I got to say that the beard goes along with the hair on the horns, so it just kind of flows really well. And you know, full props to you for committing to the helmet and the headphones at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
hey,
not an easy feat to pull off.
That's what us Darkoath do, you know. I mean, we gotta multitask, you know. I mean, you know, where we gotta do both yin and yang. So
yeah, well, you came to party, and I salute you for it. I appreciate the effort. So for those that are listening, definitely check us out on YouTube because, it's like we're doing some cosplay here, and the bearded ogre has come to party for sure. So if you are watching on YouTube, or if you aren't, I would encourage you to subscribe, hit the like button, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of our show, especially whenever we cosplay. Always good to hear from the community. And if you think there's anything else that you would like for Stu to wear, you know, put that in the comments as well. Just keep it PG, please. Thank you.
Anything head related, please. Anything head related, I will head. Okay, so
good deal. So and also while you're on YouTube, we've got several new videos out there. One is from the Chaplain. Lee has created a great video on stackable terrain, which I've made terrain before myself, and when you put that out there, I think the word stackable is really important because it's so easy to do. I mean, it's the pink styrofoam. If you live in the United States, the pink styrofoam sheets from Home Depot or Lowe's or your hobby store, but you can really use, any kind of styrofoam, and then you do all the cuts and everything and the flock. It looks great. So definitely check that video out. It's very easy and cheap to make and makes your tabletop look great. So. All right. Well, we have a really great show. Speaking of hobby, we are going to go through some painting techniques. I know we typically hit a lot of news, and we do have some news to share on the Darkoath, which is why Stu is dressed up. He's very excited about the Darkoath box set.
I don't know. Is it? I don't know. So
yeah, you're not really dressed up, right? This is just what you wear every day. So
exactly. Yep.
We've got a new Darkoath box set coming out. So Stu's hyped. We're going to talk about that and get his opinions. The new Stormcast Reclusian model has been shown off. Also some news about the Emperor's Children not being included in the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Ooh, spicy. So it's a big deal, but we're going to talk about that. But we're also going to be hitting up some painting techniques. We've got different distinct styles. One I would say is a grim dark, another a cell shaded contrast, which is great for painting skin, and then we've got another that is more of a dry brush blending technique. So I know that we'll throw some images up on while we discuss, but even if you're listening for just the podcast over your streaming app of choice, we're going to go through and just talk through some techniques and some things that we do whenever we do our various painting. So cool stuff, lots to talk about. Before we get into all of the wonderful details, we're going to hit the pile of potential, which leads into our hobby stuff. But I wanted to start with just, again, our reoccurring segment now that I've started to really enjoy, and just talking through our pile of potential progress. I have made some great progress, but Lee, I'm going to start with you. Where are you on your pile of potential? and I believe I've got some pictures to show, but I want to first start just hearing where you are and what you've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, I've got quite an extensive pile of potential, and I just decided to paint something different. Instead of it being a Space Marine or a Seraphon, I was like, hey, let me just do something that's different. So we were at a game day, and I won a box, Underworld box of the Crimson Court, which are vampires, and I was like, never painted vampires before. Let's have a go. Let me see what I can do with this. So yeah, that's Prince Duval. That's a work in progress. There's so many little things still to do on that model, but just been having fun painting that. It was just working through different layers. But I have to admit, like, the more I've painted those models, the more and more I've been kind of curious about the soul blight grave lords. I don't know why, but if I'm jumping into something like 40k or Sigma, I want to get armies on both sides so that I can effectively have good guys versus bad guys. And yes, I know every Games Workshop store manager is saying there's no good guys, but I like, the idea of, Sylvaneth and my Seraphon armies going against the soul like grave lords. So I think that's, painting the armor and stuff like that has made me go, okay, if there is a spearhead, is it spearhead box or vanguard?
Yeah, spearhead.
Yeah,
Spearhead.
Yeah.
Spearhead, yeah,
If there's a spearhead box that comes out for the soul blight, I may, want to pick that up so I can at least play it. And then also they've got a lot of skeletons in it as well. So I'm like, okay, like that kind of is that nod to the first box that I owned, which was the skeleton army back in the day. So unfortunately, deciding to paint the vampires to reduce my pile of potential has potentially opened up the
more
possibility
potential.
of more potential. Yeah.
Well, I love the style, and I talked about this just a few minutes ago, but I would label this style, for those that are watching on YouTube or on Spotify. We have the video there too. It is a grimdark style, and I've noticed, just being your friend and watching you paint over the last 6 to 8 months or so, your style, and everybody has their own little way of doing things. I know I have my distinct, processes and things, but your style has become more of a grim dark, and I don't mean that just in a 40k sense, and obviously with Soulblight Gravelords being more of a fantasy Age of Sigmar type side. Um, but the deep recesses, the best way I can describe it is having armor that pops in color, but then having really deep shadow on the recesses of the armor. And I don't know why. Stu, I'm interested in your comments, especially from someone you probably painted more than any of us, and we'll get to your models here in a second. But would you describe this more as a grim dark? Like it's a gritty looking feel along with the base, and a lot of your models have that vibe to them, and I think it's really cool. It's a very distinct, like, look. Your Tyranids have the same thing, but this model in particular, Stu, I'm interested in your thoughts. Like, are you getting the grim dark the same as I am, or do you think it's something else? Oh, we may have lost Stu. That's okay. So I think this one is for sure a grim dark style. I like the way that it looks. Lee, my question to you is, what are your, I guess, what have you learned painting this way? What do you think has been the biggest takeaway for painting vampires, painting something completely different than what you're used to?
Yeah, so when I, there was a video that I put out on YouTube where I was just trying different things, and that was the flesh eater court, whatever the guy was. But that was really the first time where I decided, hey, let me just use a dark purple as my base color. So using a color as my undercoat, just to kind of build up from there. And then what I did was, I just layered on top of that. But with this one, what I decided to do was I'd take that purple and then I would mix it with my first color, which is the red. So I think it was like a corn red. So I'd mix it up, and the idea was to try and layer out of the purple all the way up. So go through, like, paint the shadow, and then go to the kind of first tone, the mid tone, and then the highlight. So effectively what you get is you get this kind of perception of depth, and so that was really what I was trying to do. And you have to be okay with leaving some of that darker color in the recesses. But what I love about this model is how that red has just almost come to life. So instead of just being a color of red, it's got all those shades all the way through it. So
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing process. Like I've not got to the point yet where I'm using like glazing or anything like that to really bring that through. So it's still quite gritty. But I think what I'm learning is to experiment, is to try different things, try new ways. There's really talented people that do this so well. I think it's Craft World Studios. They use a lot of color in their undertone to build up, and then I've started seeing guys like Ninjon using this, and that's where the inspirations come from. Is like, man, just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen?
Right.
It goes wrong, and then it's paint. So yeah, so I've got to finish the rest of the band. There's like 4 models in that. I think my sticking point, if I'm honest, and this is something that I'm curious to learn more, and I may just try and do this more, is just painting skin. Like, armor is pretty easy, but skin is difficult. I just find sometimes that difficult. So I'm gonna probably rummage through like my bits box and just find all the faces, and then just take some time just painting faces, painting skin, just to be able to level up in that same way. But
Yeah.
It's fun.
I think you're what you're discovering. I think a lot of us do the same thing. It's just over time you learn new techniques. So especially for, we've got a lot of our listeners are new to the hobby, are just thinking about picking up Warhammer or considering getting into additional armies or something like that. My advice personally, just looking at my own journey, painting journey, and yours as well, is just push yourself. Try a new technique. Have plenty of the isopropyl alcohol on hand, so that if you do get to the point where you mess it up, you don't like it, you can do what we say is to give them an alcohol bath and put them in a little tub of that, and then have a toothbrush handy to scrub it all off. But take some risks. Try out a new technique. Try out new paint. Look up some different techniques, and it's okay if your models don't all look the same. You can try different things. And so I know you've been very successful with it so far.
So I think as well, like, this is one thing, and this is maybe just a little bit of like advice, would be always try and paint something that's different. So if you're painting Space Marines on a consistent basis, try and find a model that stretches you. That's where like the mini of the month that GW put out at the local stores, that's really good for stretching you. But I tell you what, I think is really good, and again, this is something that I've just enjoyed, is instead of maybe trying these techniques on your like favorite armies or favorite models, going out and picking up a Underworld's expansion box where it's just 4 minis, or go and find something where it's a cohesive kind of band or look, but 4 models. And just try that and just see, and paint those in so it stretches you a little bit, but use those to kind of stretch yourself. So it's not like your favorite army that you're messing around on, and you almost do it that way. And that's what I did, but I had a free box, so I was like, it's like,
I mean,
win-win.
I would say Warcry, for example, Warcry, Kill Team, or I mean, we're starting with Underworlds, right? A lot of those fringe games that are different from the mainline Age of Sigmar or 40K games, they are great for, like, you don't feel the pressure. Like, oh man, this is my mainline game. I play 40K or just Sigmar all the time. I have to paint it a certain way. I think it's great to just pick up a single box of models that for a game that maybe you don't play as much, and then that frees you up. Anything, I could paint anything I want. So I think what you're doing now, and especially the advice that you're giving, is spot on. Just push yourself, but also look into other games as an outlet, and that way it by default frees you up a little bit. So
I mean, you can also
I think
even
it's great.
look into going on eBay and buying
Mm-hmm.
all box of old school orcs from Warhammer Fantasy and using those. I mean, you could probably find them for cheap for like $10, and you got 12 or 13 of them. I mean, yeah, there's a multitude of ways. I've even heard the Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions. He suggested bringing up just even painting like little army men, just to if you're just trying to certain techniques. I mean, yes, they're not as detailed as the models, but if you're just trying to learn how to highlight and shade or whatever, or how does contrast work or speed paint work on a model, how it flows, those are definitely an easy thing to use. So
Yeah, agreed. And there's all types of different techniques that you can use, and I've started with something that was really really easy at first, and then over time added some additional techniques or difficulty, and it has sometimes improved my painting. Other times I found out that I didn't like a certain technique. I didn't want to go through the extra effort that many others find enjoyment out of. So, with that said, I want to transition over to Stu, some of your miniatures. I want to put these on display here. And as I was looking at these, especially, of course, very, very Darkoath, hence the helmet. But
yeah.
but one thing I wanted to point out, and I'm always looking to maybe name the type of style that you have. And I'm going to throw up one other picture that to me really is pronounced the style that I'm looking at. I would call a cell shaded, almost like a cartoony, hyper realistic, but a cartoony graphic novel, heavy on the contrast paint. So my question to you, Stu, as far as the painting is concerned, especially with these models that we're looking at here, a lot of exposed skin to paint, which can be daunting for a lot of people. What has been your technique for making it look so polished and crisp, but using contrast paints? I would assume that it's fairly quick, and you get good results quickly.
Yeah, I mean, so that's how I use a light base primer and do contrast, and then go over it with a layer paint of some color. I feel like it's kind of weird. It's like I feel like I've gotten dark skin done really well. It's the light that I'm still trying to work on. Whether or not I still need that final highlight to it. I mean, you are your own worst critic. So if you feel like it needs another pop of highlight, even though these are chaff units that are probably going to within the first turn, then go for it. But it's the way I like to paint. I mean, I can usually, with where my life is right now, I've usually only have one day to paint, and I can knock out 2 of these models in a day, and so with the style that I do. And so it's just I don't know. I just really love using contrast paint or speed paint, either one, and just using a highlight and just calling it done. With the specifics with the blood that I've got on there, I've used the technique that I learned from Peachy, which was you get the ferrule, I think it's what it's called, from the plastic cap that comes on the paint or the paintbrush, and you get a sponge and you stick it in there and you just sponge it onto it, and it gives it more of a realistically blood of a look. But yeah, the style I paint, I mean, I love it because it's quick, but also it gives me the results that I like, and I usually get good compliments for it. And I think that when you paint, it's we're always trying to find faster ways to paint or whatever. It's but if that's the style that you like and you enjoy it as you're painting it, for it, whether it takes you 2 hours or 2 weeks. Just as long as you're enjoying it, and then in the process of you getting there, then I should say go for it 100%. So
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that it's not just the doing it for, because you feel like you have to. I mean, a lot of times for me as a painter, I end up spending a lot of time painting my models, but um, I don't really enjoy painting. It's just something that I feel like I have to do. It's almost like cleaning your house to me. I'm like, yeah, I know I gotta get this done. I gotta knock this out. It's a little irritating for me that it has to be, done this way, but it's a means to an end. I'm trying to get these models on the table, and I know that I'm going to be frustrated if I don't paint them to a high standard. So that's the reason that I paint, and I think it's interesting that you have, for your distinct style, you've been able to settle on an outcome which looks really good. The skin that you paint is a hyper, like, stylized type of paint, a paint scheme, and it makes the models pop on the table. And for those that are of our age that are listening to this show, you know I think the older I get, the eyesight is going to start going bad, and you don't really look at, even years ago, you're not going to look at those details really, really up close. There's a lot of times it's just, you're going to look at them from a couple of feet away. You're going to be on the table moving these models around, and very rarely are you going to get super close and pull them right close to your face. So I think the style that you have, which is layer paints and plus with contrast, makes it pop so much, so that even from far away, it's a distinctive look. And I think it's a cool method for achieving really good results and doing it quickly. But it definitely looks
well, yeah,
polished
I
for
mean,
sure.
that's kind of like my main goal with it too. It's like, as long as it looks like 6 feet away, I mean, that's all that matters to me. I mean, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
enter these things into like Golden Demon or Crystal Brush or anything kind of like that. I mean, I'm there to tell the army and hopefully take down a couple of enemies with me. So it's just,
Yeah.
if it looks good from 6 or 7 feet away, I mean, that's a goal for me. So
Yeah. Very cool. Well, good results. Great results. I think your Dark Oath looked very, very good. Even I think the helmet that you're wearing gives him an edge to the rest of us too. So
I mean,
you got to
it
go all in.
elevates it. I mean, it just really elevates it. I mean, who knows? I might just pull it off and there'd be one sitting on top of my head, like a
You never know,
white
like
rabbit.
a magician.
So
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I'm gonna transition over to my model that I have finished. My pile of potential has, I've been talking about it over the last couple of weeks, where it's just not where it needed to be. Just not great. It's been, work has been pretty intense for me, hard for me to get around to painting and having the effort there, but I have made some progress, pretty considerable. I've been talking about painting Krondus, which is the dragon. I've been working on him for a while, so I am ready to reveal. I've got a couple of shots here that I'll show, but I went for a little bit of a different look. This is the model itself is. There's two different sculpts. One is, I think it's Kazurai, the Scarred is the alternate version of this model when you buy him, because the Krondus model that comes in the box painted in this blue scheme is has like a grin to him, like he knows more than you do, and I wanted mine to be a little more imposing, so I went with the Kazurai. I don't know how you say it, but it's the Scarred model, and I got a close up there of this lightning or something that's going through the side of his neck, and I really liked I used a lot of contrast paint on this guy, but I've started to develop a little bit of a style that I would consider, it's a dry brush blending technique. So I don't really do wet blending. I do a lot of different layers of dry brushing, especially, and I'm showing the wings, on the back of the wings. I did multiple different coats with dry brush techniques. So maybe up close, it probably doesn't look as clean and crisp as if you did a wet blend, a true wet blend. But again, going back to what I just said a minute ago, that a lot of these shots are 2 or 3 feet away. You said 6 feet away. I don't know if it's that far, but it's on the table, and it is far enough away where you're not going to be able to tell. You're just going to be able to see these wings. So I was really pleased with the results, at least to my standard anyway. And the dry brush is something very quick. So while I did a combination of the contrast paints on the front with the scales, and Lee, I know you painted Seraphon, and you've done a lot of the contrast paint or the different techniques there. I went full on, like I'll do Wraithbone over this whole thing to really light color, and then I went in with contrast paint for the bulk of the skin. And then I guess as far as wet blending is concerned, I did come back and do multiple coats of contrast. So I guess in essence, that's kind of a wet blend. But I still went back, to more of a dry brush technique, which I really liked doing.
Do you think you would do this technique still with like a smaller model, or like, do you think you'd only stick with a bigger model like this?
I think it's very difficult, as you might imagine, to do it on a small model. I mean, the different layers that I'm doing with the back of wings are on vehicles. Much easier to do dry brushing on big models like that. So with a small one, probably not. There's no way that I'm going to get into the little bitty, like somebody's bicep or something. I'm not doing this multiple coats of dry brushing. But for the larger models, I find it's even more satisfying to me to paint a really large model, because I know that I can get good results quickly with multiple layers of dry brushing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
one thing with me, on the dry brushing is, like, for my model, the gold, kind of goldish green that I have, I actually did that all dry brush. And that was the first thing I did. I knew that it would be sloppy. And then, so whatever I got that color on that I didn't want it, I just went back a white to clean it up. And then I went, because I really liked that kind of green look, and there wasn't any other way to do it with contrast method that I use. So I just, that's what I did. I started off with a black, then put a lighter green, another lighter green, a gold, and then I called it done. So, yeah.
Yeah. I really like the end result with Krondus. I'm excited now that I'm done. That's what I am starting to work on, the Storm Drake Guard, which are the smaller dragons. I'll put this, for those watching, I'll put this up on the video here. One of these little guys. It's a similar build. I'm just using contrast paint for the bulk of the skin and the wings. So I'll probably do the similar technique with the dry brush blend on that one, because the models are not huge, but they're big enough where I can go do lots of different layers with dry brushing. Yeah. So
I think what's cool with the Krondus as well, like, because you have those two different head sculpts, what you can do is you can actually go ahead and use that one and just use it as a practice, or even just put it as just as a bust type thing. I've seen people do that, where they've painted one fully and then they've kept that one for just art purposes and just playing around with stuff like that. What's funny is, whenever I see that model, I don't know why, but in my head I think of Liam Neeson just saying something, like talking. I know, and I don't know why. It's like Aslan,
Okay.
or the dragon goes, "I have a peculiar set of skills, and I reassure you, by the end of tonight, I will find you. I will kill you."
Yeah, I mean, it always has a personality. Every model has a little bit of a personality, and it's easy to, especially while you're painting. I talked about it last week with Steve, where we're crafting these narratives around our models, and it's cool to have to read some of the lore and have a purpose. Why do these models, why does this dragon exist? What's it doing here? Why is it with this army? And I think, in absence of lore and actual knowledge, it's cool to make up your own.
Yeah.
And it might be Liam Neeson.
I mean, yeah, I support that all day, every day, man. Like, I mean, like with my Darkoath right now, like, I call them the Crimson Pelts, and part of their thing is that on their little, like, front, it's got blood on it to represent that. And so every model that I make with that, I always put a little dab of like blood on the tabard, because it's like, of like the beasts that they killed to prove, where they showed their strength, or for their, like their saga or whatever like that. So I mean, yeah, like the more if you paint them and you start creating these narratives or whatever, and it's just, I think that's one reason why I like painting. That's the thing I like about painting, is that it starts building those juices and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just, I just love it.
Well, speaking of your Darkoath, I think that is a wonderful segue. Let's talk about the latest Darkoath box. So we have a new box set that was announced. I know, Stu, you're very excited as the resident Darkoath player. We talked about this on the past shows, where they have done the full reveal, where they where they have done lots of, that we've seen most of the models. So I'm not going to rehash all of them, but I did want to throw up a few that I thought were new, especially the Darkoath Riders. I don't think that they have shown these, at least that they haven't shown them fully painted yet, at least from my perspective. They had a couple of different images that they released recently on the Warcom site. So, I mean, I know you're excited about the box set. I get that, but
am I? I don't know. I can't tell.
Yeah, right. A little weird though, and I'm sure you're excited about all the models. Models are cool. Models are what they are. But what I really wanted to ask you though is it a little weird, because we're on the cusp of a new edition of Age of Sigmar. We got 4th edition coming out. It's all about Stormcast and Skaven, and that's all well and good. But they are releasing a brand new box set. I mean, literally, I would say maybe 2 to 3 months before the new edition of Age of Sigmar, and which is fine, and they're coming out with some rules. So what's the deal with that? How are you feeling about where the Darkoath are currently, and what the implications are for going into a new edition?
I mean, it is kind of weird. I mean, it's kind of sucky that, like, the rules might be invalid in the next 2 to 3 months, but I mean, the new ones that come out with them will be in that same vein of some style. Like I said, I'm more of a fan of the models than I am with rules. So like, I'd rather have the models than rules. I mean, they wouldn't have, if these models didn't have rules, I would still put them in my army and just say they're proxies for something else. Like, I mean,
okay, fair enough.
It's just, but I do agree. I mean, I think it's also that they're releasing this box on its own and not like pairing it with the last Dawnbringer book, because that's about chaos. That's where the new like Varangard on the giant lizard's going to be coming in, and then Gunnar Brow, I think that's his name, and the Darkoath characters from the Warcom TV show, that's going to be in that book, plus a Army of Renown, a Dark of Renown. And I think I read in one of the Warcom pages that they're still going to include the rules for the models in this box in that book as well. So it's just so yeah, it's just kind of weird that they're not dropping that book as well with this box. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with coming in waves, because that way my wallet can breathe, and I can get caught up with the thing that's coming up now. So, I agree. I think it's a little strange.
I mean, with 40K or on when 9th edition was starting to wind down, they came out with boarding actions, and Vashtor was the big model with the Arcs of Omen narrative and Abaddon and all that kind of stuff, and that was cool. I liked that narrative, and the narrative books were fine. They came out with a new way to play 40K, which is still relevant today. You can still play boarding actions, and everything works fine. They came out with rules for Vashtor, but it wasn't I think it was in a book, but they made it available free via PDF, or maybe it's in White Dwarf or something like that. I just wonder, is there a way, and Lee, I'm interested in, where you come in on this too. Is there a way that Games Workshop could, because they got to release content. They want to get this stuff out the door. They don't want to just release models. They want to sell more books, even though they have a new edition. It's almost like releasing a new video game console. You still want to sell the old one up until the new one comes out. So they still got to move this stuff off the shelf. But what would be the way that they would release content in the future where you wouldn't have buyer's remorse. You're going to buy this box and the book comes with it, and you got all these rules, and they're going to be obsolete in 2 to 3 months. How do they get around that? What would you recommend, if anything?
I think what we saw with Boarding Actions and Arcs of Omen was that I think there was 3 books that they brought out, and each one of those had a different kind of character that was kind of linked to it. So I think you had Abaddon, Vashtor, and then if I remember right, you had Farsight. So that was the new sculpt that they brought out. So there was this book that contained the lore, but then the models were the new sculpts that would then jump into 10th. So there wasn't a new Farsight model with 10th. It was like, this is the model. So I think you almost need like a smaller game or some sort of narrative that bridges that gap. And I think that's one of the ways around it. Or just I mean, they got to be making money either way. So just delay. You could delay that a little bit, or you can go, hey, we're going to release these models, but we're not going to release the book yet and release it at a later date. I think that's one way of doing. I mean, my frustration, and I told you guys about this. Like, I got the crew hunting pack, and it was ready to go, and I was all excited. And then I went to put the code in the app and get the bunker going, and I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to play this game and use my Tau, and it was like, like, and it doesn't get released until it's on general release. I think that's it. And I was just like, so why did I rush to get this box set? Yes, because of the crew, but
yeah, you got the models.
I got the models, but I still wanted to play with my old Tau army. And I think that's what happens sometimes, is that there are releases that are then delay something, or there are stuff that's brought out and then it becomes obsolete. And I think that's, that can be frustrating, So I don't know how they bridge it other than doing something that's narrative and zooms in on characters. So for example, like the bridge between 3rd and 4th edition Sigmar, do they need to zoom in on characters that are going to play a fundamental part in the narrative of the, so for a Darkoath, like, who is the guy, the champion? Let's bring a good sculpt out of him. Let's bring like the ultimate clan rat or whatever. Like, everyone's like,
but you still got the rules associated with it, and they're releasing it as part of the box set. I mean, I guess on one hand, it's you could look at it, and Stu, I think that you're looking at it this way with the Darkoath. You're excited about the models. Who cares about all the rules from your perspective? And I get it. I would be the same way with orcs or Votans. It's like, I just want the new sculpts. Whatever you give me from a rules perspective is just bonus. That's just gravy on top of. I'm paying for the models, and you're giving me a free book. Is sometimes the way I look at it. Would you agree with that?
Well, also, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But I think it's crazy too. Is kind of back to the Chaplain's frustration of not being able to have the rules on the app. Is that these rules for the Darkoath will be on the app, like, because I mean, that's kind of for them not to, because they're going to be free for you to download. So like, why would you have them free to download for you to have, but not app? So like, I mean, it's just kind of weird how, like,
yeah.
I mean, yes, obviously it's not like a book, so like, I guess that might be the reason why. But I mean,
I wonder if that's just because 40K being the more popular game, and people are gonna they know that people are gonna buy it no matter what, so they don't need to dangle the carrot in front as much as they do with Sigmar. They want more people to play Age of Sigmar, and as they should, because it's a great game. I think that if they were to, my solution, if for what it's worth, my solution would be to lean more heavily into the digital, whether it's app or website or something. I continue to go back to the way that Dungeons and Dragons does it with D&D Beyond. For those that are D&D players, they do a really good job of allowing you to make characters in D&D Beyond for free. And then if you want to do something that's out of the realm of the the free stuff. You've got the opportunity to purchase different modules or books, part of the digital platform. And I wish they would do something like that. I know a lot of people want that physical book. They like the copy of it in their hands and to go through the pages. And my wife's that way. She wants to hold the physical copy of the book and smell the pages and the whole experience. And I don't want any of that. I'd rather have it on a tablet or something that is pure digital, that I don't mind paying for it. So I'd almost prefer that they wouldn't sell any of the books, or at least give me an option to have some kind of subscription, whether it's Warhammer Plus or something separate, where I would buy the box of models and then maybe have I can go all digital if I want to. I just want the models and the tokens and everything that comes with it. And then give me the rules separately. I'll pay a subscription for constantly updating stats via the app without having to put a code in. I just personally that's what the way I would prefer.
I feel like that's a great idea, like especially with Warhammer. I mean, I feel like if you're like a Warhammer Plus member and you do buy say like the Crew box, you should have early access to the book to put on your like give it a different code than a normal book has. Like let it have some kind of special kind of asterisk, or I don't know what you would do, but like I think that makes complete sense. I love that idea. So
well, I'll sign me up, right? These ideas are for a small fee included in your Warhammer Plus subscription.
I think it would be. I mean, and this would never happen, and this is really kind of like blue sky thinking. But hey, go ahead, and this is a one-time, like an annual fee, but you get access to all the codexes, like from the point of view of I know, but like, for example, like when we played on Sunday night, Tyranids of Votan, like I would have loved to have known some of your stats going into it, just that I could be like, okay, hey, I got to watch out for those guys, got to watch out for that. Right now it's like trial and error. Like, obviously I lost the game because I didn't read the rules, which is first mistake, and then tried to take a winged prime against some guys that are really great with hammers and power axes. So, but I think knowing that ahead of time would have been really helpful, and I think that's why sometimes I'm just like, but that's never going to happen. But it would be nice.
I wish they wouldn't paywall it, right? The rules themselves. I don't know of another game that's like this. I'm trying to rack my brain and think of one. I can't, because you buy like even card games are a little different, but it'd be like if they locked the rules of the game themselves, like itself, behind some kind of paywall where you had to buy a completely separate book or something. Now you have to play. You can't play the card game without the 5 different books. It's just it's really weird, and I think they've gotten themselves. Games Workshop has gotten themselves into this hole where they have to continue to pump out these books with a game that is constantly evolving, and they are stuck. To me, the books side of the hobby and the company are a bit stuck in the past, where they really need to embrace the digital era, because they're doing it with all the meta watch and getting the stats and the results, and they're changing things on the fly, and they can release this stuff in a PDF or an app, which is great, but they're still holding themselves back with all these books. And so we said it a million times, but I wish they would release the books as just more of a lore and maybe painting tips and some extra pictures or some narrative stuff, some ideas for running campaigns with your orc army, with your Darkoath army, or or whatever. That would be something that would be an optional purchase for hardcore fans of that specific army. Yeah, sure, splurge for the big book that's going to give you all this extra fluff. But if I just want to buy the models and play the game, I shouldn't have to buy the book itself, and that's, anyway. Soapbox rant over. But
would you buy the limited edition though?
No. And I'm glad you brought that up, because on the last show I said the collector's edition was only $30 more. I looked it up. It's now $40 more. So that, and US dollars, $60 for the codex, at least for on the 40K side, and then the collector's edition. So if I was looking at the Orc collector's edition codex, it's $100.
Wow.
I mean, it better be encased in like glass for that. Like, or maybe I'm just a cheapskate. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Anyway. All right. Well, Stu, very excited for you and the Darkoath that are coming out. I cannot wait to see fully painted models, and we'll be sure to ask you about your updates from your soon to be very large pile of potential, and looking forward to new painting techniques and all kinds of stuff. All right. Well, let's now transition over to some news here to wrap up the show. We've got one thing that was announced on the Warcom site was a new Stormcast model. This is the Reclusian, I believe is how you would say it.
I think it's how you say it. I don't even know how to say it myself. But yeah,
I'm going to say Reclusian. Yeah, it's a Reclusian. Yeah, we'll go with Reclusian. My first thought on this model, the only difference between a Space Marine and this model is like the helmet and maybe the logo on the shield. Like, I guess Space Marines wouldn't necessarily have a shield that looks like that, but with the like the paper streaming off the model, it looks straight up Space Marine. And I know that the Stormcast are kind of like the Age of Sigmar Space Marines, but like, come on, this is almost too Space Marine for me.
I mean, that said, not only that,
like the model looks cool.
Like, it comes with like a monk that could clearly be in the 40K universe. Yeah, those guys. Yeah, I mean, those could you don't even have to cut anything off or convert anything.
Nope.
Just put it in your army, and it's good. It looks like it goes right in. So like, these are definitely the most. I agree, the most Space Marine 40K-ish looking, Stormcast that they've made yet. But saying that, I still feel they look really cool. Like,
they look awesome. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think they look really cool. I mean, having these massive dudes and dudettes with these giant axes and shields and the script papers, we'll just call them purity shields or seals, coming off. It's cool. Like, but yes, it is. It's just one. If they just threw the ball a little bit to the curve, it would have smacked Ultramarines fan right in the face. Like, I mean, so.
I think what you said there, Stu, about the priests that are with them, they're mortal priests. So when I was reading into this, like, if I read it right, and this is where the whole story with the Age of Sigmar, the new Age of Sigmar and Sigmar lied, is that each time they regenerate, I think they forget part of who they are and they lose part of themselves, their humanity. So the more they regenerate, whereas these guys, those mortal priests that are with them are often like direct descendants of them themselves. So like, the idea is it could be a son or a daughter or a grandson. It could be, a family member. If I read right, that there is alongside them, almost to keep them bolted to the earth, to kind of as a reminder of their mortality, even though they're immortal. Just this idea of a connection to the planet, and I thought that was really cool. This idea of and even the Memorians, like the idea of memory, like, hey, we're here to remind you of the why behind what you did and why you do it. So I thought that was a really cool kind of like narrative tie-in for that they're not just these immortal beings that just keep regenerating, but they're trying to tie them in with the people of Sigmar.
I wonder what kind of special abilities they're going to have that are going to be different than just a normal Stormcast. I've never actually played full-time Stormcast Eternals. I've been mostly a Skaven player, so I've read the codex, or sorry, the battle tome. Got to get it right. I'm sure they'll release new battle tome, coming out with hopefully that's in the box set, but I doubt it. I mean, they'll probably have maybe some pamphlets or something. It won't be the full book.
I'm pretty confident that like the battle tome for both Skaven and Stormcast would probably drop within the next like or 2 weeks after they drop the starter box.
It was a separate release.
So, but kind of going back to like Lee's, thing about having the mortals with them, kind of taking a funny twist to it. It's almost like me always telling my grandfather, like, "Hey, you don't have that anymore." Like, it's just like it's also like the kids remind the parents, like, just remember you said this, okay? Like, don't tell mom, okay? You said that secret, okay? Don't act that way. So
reminding the Reclusian of all of the laundry list of tasks that he has to do when he gets back. Like, hey, don't forget you got to pick up the kids and clean the car. I like the idea of him like making sure all the chores are documented so that when he returns in a bolt of lightning, like, okay, here you go.
I mean, that's why he has it on his armor. Like, it's like, okay, this is my chores for today. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
The name would make me think that they are some sort of like strike from the shadows. The idea that they hide back, they're recluse. You know what I mean? Like they're hidden, and then they come out of nowhere and hit you with a hammer, like pretty hard. Like I would imagine it would be that, or some sort of like
some kind of stealth
storm. Unit. Storm comes around, or smoke comes in, and before you know it, they're there. I wonder if it also speaks to why they've got the priests. Maybe the priests with smoke, they create a field round them, and then they can strike from the shadows or something.
Or maybe like in the rules, because like with RIP with the Sarek chamber, they just cut like the basic troops. They were all considered wizards, so they were able to cast spells. So maybe this unit's considered as priests, so they can do like priest abilities and stuff like that because they've got the additional model with them. Maybe, who knows? So.
Well, I mean, needless to say, that I think they could go a lot of different ways with this model. I really like that they're doing a different spin on Stormcast, that they're not just straight up good guys, quote unquote good guys, but they're really leaning into this shadowy, the Reclusian name is cool. It just strike from the shadow. What's going on? Why are they in the shadows? What's happening with the Stormcast? I'm interested, of course, with anything. Age of Sigmar always has a really cool narrative hook to it. So I'm very interested to learn more and see more of this kind of thing as they release more models leading up to the 4th edition of Age of Sigmar. Very excited about it, and I can't wait to see the full box set reveal because, again, I have both armies that I still need more, of course, more Skaven. Yes. And I can't wait to see more of these models. Very exciting. All right. So very last topic I want to hit on is some news that dropped on the Warcom site regarding the Emperor's Children. These are, first of all, a sect or a division of Chaos Space Marines. And they were announced today that they are not going to be in the upcoming Chaos Space Marine Codex. So as a Chaos Space Marine player, 2 things. One, I'm like, whatever. I've already got my color scheme. They've already been painted, a certain way. I'm good with that. That's not an issue for me. I do like the Noise Marines. I think they're really cool. And I like the Lucius, the Eternal. Not necessarily care much for the model, but the person, I guess, if you will. Lucius the Eternal, the Noise Marines are really cool. I think it's odd that they are not just removing them from the Codex, but number one, that they announced that they're removing them from the Codex, and then the sculpts are old, so they either need to be retired or refreshed, and it looks like they're kind of retiring them. But the rules update are coming in the form of an index. So you can still play them, but it's going to be a PDF, right? You can download the PDF. Very similar, I would assume, that what they're going to be doing for Darkoath after the new edition launches. They're going to be releasing an update, and here's your PDF. I don't know, guys. I feel like this is just, again, a step backwards. They're holding on to, some people still have these models and want to play them. And if you're a Emperor's Children player and you really like the Noise Marines and Lucius the Eternal, it would probably feel kind of bad that they would just completely retire them and you'd never be able to play them again. So on one hand, it's good fan service to keep them in the game. On the other hand, now you've got yet another PDF, another rules reference to print out and take with you to games. Lee, I'm interested in your thoughts, where you come down on this one. Do you think that this is something they will do with other armies? Is this going to continue, or do you think it's just for this particular model range because they're a little dated?
I mean, I think it's going to continue. I think you'll start seeing it more and more as things get retired. So, I mean, I've experienced it from the point of view of, some Seraphon units that I have are now retired, and then I've seen it, with Sylvaneth. I think there was a couple of models that were retired. So, I think you're going to see it more and more. Maybe that's just because they have to make room for the new stuff, because obviously, you don't want to be carrying a codex round that's, like like a massive edition codex, because you've got so much in there. But I do feel for those people that have spent money on those models and then suddenly they're now obsolete, that you can't play them. I feel bad. I feel gutted because I've got Seraphon, I got, lizards riding dinosaurs that I can't use in the game, and I'm like, but I like those ones. Yeah, so I think you're going to see it more. But I think it's
At
just
least
part of it.
at least the models, to me, I mean, you could tell the sculpts are old, right? They need to refresh them, replace them, do something with them. And I just think that I'm glad that they are at least retiring the model range. I do wish they would refresh them. At least the Noise Marine, I think, is okay. The Lucius the Eternal model could use a refresh. But I think this is going to continue. Stu, where do you come down on releasing a model range, or retiring a model range, and then coming out with the PDF attachment saying, hey, you can still play this, but now you're going to have to bring your luggage with you because we've got a bunch of pieces of paper for you to refer to. Has that ever happened to you playing Warhammer over the years?
I mean, not really. I mean, I've been blessed, because we all know the AOS scare that's been released, and none of the stuff that I play got axed. Some things within the Slaves to Darkness that got the hatchet, but nothing that I truly enjoy or play a bunch with. But yeah, it stinks. I mean, no one wants their toys taken away. Everyone wants to play with what they want to play. But I mean, also as long as you're not like a hardcore tournament, I mean, it's a social contract between you and the person you're playing with. So if they're cool with you playing with them and the rules that were last provided with them, I mean, you're good to go. But either way, it still sucks that you can't get the new shiny thing because they're not allowed anymore, So and no one likes that.
I agree.
I think what you said, David, I think I think it's not retire, but it's refresh. So if you turn around and said, hey, these aren't going to be in the up and coming codex, but come December, we're going to have a range refresh. So they're coming back, just giving people that, it's almost, this idea of, hey, you can trade this for here's the new model. You can still use it if you want, but it's not going to be the new model. I'd rather see them do that than retiring them. Just refresh so that you can keep playing. Or put those rules, don't include them in the codex. Well, that's what they're doing, aren't they? They're creating an index, so maybe that is their way of keeping people happy moving forward.
Yeah, I don't envy their position. I think no matter what they do, someone's going to be mad. It is the nerd culture, and we all love this game, and we want the investment that we make to continue and last. So I get it. I'm not necessarily complaining because I don't play those models. I like the new stuff. I don't necessarily want to hold on to the old stuff. So it's just the nature of it. I think nothing terrible, just the way it goes. And that said, I think the positives far outweigh the negatives. We got lots of new models to look forward to. Stormcast, Darkoath, new version of Age of Sigmar. Really cool stuff coming out. Very exciting times. So looking forward to all the new releases for sure. All right. Well, with that will do it for this episode of the Dad Hammer podcast. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you to the Chaplain, the Bearded Ogre, and I am David the Warboss. And until next time, always remember that your pile of potential boxes, no matter how big, can double as terrain. So use those pile of potential boxes to your advantage. And if you actually do that, I always say that, take some pictures and tag us on Instagram. I'd love to see your ghetto looking terrain. But if you want to make them a little better, make sure to check out our video. There's another plug for the stackable terrain. Check that out. All right. Until next time, thanks for listening. Take care, everyone.